All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Note Night in America. We've got a lot of great stuff to cover. My name is Scott Carson. If you don't know me, I'm the known as the note guy across the country. Been buying. This marks my 25th year as a real estate investor. It's hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun. But been buying distressed notes, performing notes for going on my it's 2026, so going on my 18th year as a note investor. So glad to have you, whether you're joining us live or you're watching the replay. We've got a lot of stuff to go through tonight. Note Night in America, we've done this a long time. We didn't do too many of the live Monday nights last year just because with everything. We decided to start doing more of them back live, and we had held a basically continuously Monday night webinar for almost 13 years straight. So we're going to be going back into it with tapes and individual assets and case studies, stuff like that for Monday nights going forward here in 2026. And there are no dumb questions. I'm just going to ask you to keep your questions handy as we get rocking and rolling for it. So want to let you guys know we do have an upcoming workshop here in a few weeks at the end of February 27th, 28th, and March 1st. It's a 3-day in-person workshop here in Austin, Texas. That's right. In person, yours truly, 3 days. We're keeping it small to 50 people or less. Come out. If you go to notebuyingfordummies.com and register for it, the class is still 50% off. So it's $497 for you plus a partner or spouse. So come on and spend 3 days with us. You'll fly to Austin, the hotel. We're on the north side of Austin, and would love to have you come spend a couple days with us here as we dive into how to find, how to fund, how to flip notes. We've got a lot of great cases. You'll probably even see some of these deals that we're going to be going through in Texas if we get some time tonight to go through individual case studies at the workshop. But we've got a ton of great deals to go through, a lot of good stuff. So let's dive into the tape tonight. If you are joining me here on Zoom, all right. So if you will look in the chat roll, I am pasting a link, a bit.ly link. If you click on that link, it should take you to my Google Drive, and you should be able to download the spreadsheet that we're going to be going through. Now, our WC and crew members, you guys got access to the tape back on Thursday when it came in, and this tape is kind of I kind of call it a hybrid. Now, I get, like I said, I get these from all sorts of different assets, and there's a potential on here for non-performing notes, some performing notes, some subject-tos, and also foreclosures. Now, I did promise, I think Kathy on here asked a question. Kathy. Okay, so Kathy McCarty says, how do I figure out what my small note is worth to resell it? I bought it non-performing and now it has been performing for 5 years. Okay, so how many years are left on it, Kathy? That's my first question. And what you can do is take if it's got more than 15 years left on it, like it's a 30-year mortgage and you're under five, you haven't hit that halfway point on it. You can be pretty easy take the P&I payment times 12 and divide that by yield that you want to get for it. Somebody wants to get a yield. So if it's paying $200 a month, and that's $2,400 a year, $2,400, and you want to sell it at 10%, means you could sell it for like 24 grand if the balance of the loan is above 24 grand, give or take. That's a quick thing. You can always go to my website at weclosenotes.com, go to the vendor page and submit the details, and I'm glad to go out and get you a bid, get an offering for it. Okay. So that's one thing you do. We close notes, vendors, click on the vendor tab. You'll see these green buttons. Go down and hit the sell my note and fill out information about your note. And I'll be glad to get you a bid on it. All right. But tonight we're going to talk about the tape that you are here for. And let's get rock and roll. If you have any other questions, you can always book a phone call at talkwithscottcarson.com. That's talkwithscottcarson.com. And let's get rock and roll. So anyway, guys, let's see here. For those that are here, Portland, Maine, Judy, Glennis is in Orlando, Al is in Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas. All right. You can go to weclosenotes.com. All right. That's my website, weclosenotes.com. All right. Now, as we dive into this spreadsheet tonight, I'm going to ask you guys to basically stick with me on this. 4,200 notes. We got a lot to cover here, breaking down the different opportunities that are available. And one of the biggest things that people always look at is where is it located? If it's stuff's in New York State, I don't want to look at it. Well, this tape of 4,200, you would expect some stuff in New York State. Well, there's zero in New York State. Yay! Zero in New York State. And here are the top 15 states breakdown. Florida had 448. Some people might say, I don't want to buy in God's waiting room. I can understand that. Texas, 426. Georgia, 278. California, 252. North Carolina, 228. Missouri had 177, Ohio 171, Virginia 170, Arizona 140, Illinois 134, South Carolina had 130, Tennessee 123, Alabama 114, Maryland 113, and then the Hoosier State 98. Now, there's a lot more to these than these top 15. So basically, they had um, product in basically 49 states plus the District of Columbia. Okay. Nothing in New York State, so we don't have to worry about that. There is stuff, obviously, in New Jersey on this list. Less than 100. All right. It fell below the Indiana number. I think it was number 16, if I remember correctly. I think it was like 90 something, maybe 70 something. You can look at the spreadsheet and take a look at it if you have questions about any other deals. All right. But what I wanted to go through with you guys here is how these 4,200 broke down. Now, I think we're going to be spending a big chunk of time in two of the different sections. There was 597 on the list, so about 15%, that had more than 12 months in default. Okay, I mean the borrower hadn't paid more than 12 months. It went up to like 5 years. Okay, actually 7 years was the oldest. Okay, those are non-performers. Okay, now the great thing about the spreadsheet too is it gave us some classification on where they're at in the process of the foreclosure, the legal side of things. Okay. Um, you would basically go to this link, Barry, and that's where you take a look at it. Okay. All right. So there's 597 that were 12 months defaulted. We'll be going through the spreadsheet in a few minutes here. Okay. All right. 507 that were 1 year or later, prime for non-performing, buying at a bigger discount, working out with either the homeowner or going through the foreclosure process to take it back that were defaulted. Okay. Now, there was a huge opportunity also for the semi-defaulted, 6 to 12 months. All right. Now, in some states, 6 months of default, you're way beyond. Like here in Texas, if something's 6 months behind, that's twice the amount we need to foreclose. Whereas in states like South Carolina, 12 months of non-performance, it's getting right to that point. It's illegal. It would take it to foreclose in a lot of cases. I mean, anytime you get beyond 90 days, 120 days, you can start that foreclosure process. But as you can see, there's a huge chunk of these, just under 20%, under 20%, just over 20%, that had some pretty good significant defaults. Now, there's also a chunk in here that were basically 1,400 were 3 to 6 months in default. Okay. All right. That they were longer than 3 months. I'd say 4 months plus would probably be a better way to put this because I'm going to duplicate myself. All right. So those are potential buying to get reperforming, buying to foreclose, and go on that route. And then you also run into, as we say, the 90 days. There was a chunk that were right at 90 days. 1,205 of them, okay, were at 90 days in default. Because basically, the payment stream on this ended as of November 1st, and the spreadsheet was pulled December 31st. So this is a fresh spreadsheet. Not one that's been bouncing around for 3 months, stuff like that. I am direct to the seller on this stuff. If you're going to make bids later on, you'll make your bids directly into me, right? And if you're going to make bids on this, some of the stuff you look at the spreadsheet for those of you guys looking for subject-to deals, you won't make any bids into me, and that's totally fine. Okay, but maybe you'll target the subject-to deals. Maybe you'll take some deals, the listings on here, and target them for distressed buyers. I don't care. It's completely fine. Okay, we don't have the homeowner's name on these things. Okay, now there is the address, and when we get started here, once I share the spreadsheet, I will hide the address. I don't want to have this video shut down for online bullying, like some things. All right, because we don't have the borrower's name. You'll need to find that yourself by the county records and go from there. But anyway, 1,205 that are basically 90 days in default. They're right at that cusp where now they're ready to get rid of some. Okay. Now, they also provide a column on here of where they're at in the legal process, the foreclosure side of things. And 350 of them are currently in bankruptcy. And some of them are receiving bankruptcy relief out of that 350. I think there's about a dozen. But roughly around 350 of the borrowers have filed BK to try to drag this stuff out. Some people want BK Chapter 13, so that's totally great. That's fine. Okay. Another chunk of these, 2,247 are in some sort of loss mitigation based on the spreadsheet. Means they're negotiating back and forth with the lender. They're trying to do some sort of payment plan, some type of workout plan, but they're based on the numbers on the spreadsheet. 2,247 are in loss mitigation. Okay. Now, there are out of an additional 661 that are actually in the foreclosure process. The lenders started the foreclosure process. It says foreclosure. in the legal stats. Okay, tells me they're going to foreclosure. They're starting the foreclosure process, which can be great for you if you're looking for, potential property. You can buy notes you can buy at a discount, maybe either work it out or make money by selling at the foreclosure auction, or taking the asset back and keeping it in your portfolio. If you see an asset on here, great, that's fine. Okay. Now that also, I didn't even see this earlier until later today. There are already 149, okay, 149 properties that are listed as REOs, okay, where the lender has already foreclosed on these. Now, I don't know if they're listed. I don't know if they sold them already. I don't think they sold them already because this was pulled in December 31st. But they're basically, as it sits, there are 149 that literally list as REOs, okay? Now, on that aspect of things, people always ask me, what's your highest and best on these? Well, the ones that are at, 90 days or less, I'm not going to bid on to buy the note. I'm going to probably target those for potential subject-to deals. Okay. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that there's basically four strategies to take a look at for thinking about this. There may be a little bit more, but two or three of them kind of bundle into the same thing. So the first thing is, if you're buying like that first group, that 597, we're going to be buying those probably to either get reperforming, RPLs. The same thing, you can go with that 6 to 12 months. Okay. Those are ones that are opportunities for you to buy to reperform. They're 6, 7 months behind. The reason I talk about those is my number one exit strategy, because those are where I'm probably going to get the biggest discount, especially the ones that are beyond that 6 month period. The bank's okay. If it's under 6 months, they're really not going to give that big a discount on those. But when you start getting that 6 month and beyond in distress, those are notes that you buy at a discount, and you work to get them reperforming for cash flow. Or strategy number two, if they're beyond 6 months or the borrowers won't play ball with you, then you have the right to go ahead and go through the foreclosure process and either sell it at the auction and make a profit between what you paid for the note and what it sells for at auction, with a legal balance being one side. Or if there is equity and you bought it right, nobody bids at the auction, you take the asset back and now you own the asset and can sell it for a higher value if there's equity. So we did go through and looked at these things. We did run some numbers to help you identify those with equity and those with negative equity. I even went through and calculated legal balances on a bunch of them for you, actually for all of them as well. Third strategy, if you're looking for fix and flip or rentals, the REO side would be obviously those 149 potentially could be REOs to buy for you to fix and flip or to turn into rentals or owner finance and whatever you want to do with that strategy. Okay. And same thing, the REO, the NPL side of things, if you're not opposed to buying the note and taking the foreclosure back in some states. Okay. And then, of course, there's a huge opportunity, roughly about 50-60% of this list is just going to be straight up 90 days or less, and 90 days in default. Those are not going to be deals that we target to buy the notes. They're just not going to give us a big enough discount. But those are potential subject-to deals where you can reach out to the borrowers, the homeowners, and try to negotiate a subject-to deal. Okay. Or work with the borrowers, take it over, and then do a wraparound or a distressed seller if you're a realtor. Okay. But that's where those kind of four main strategies are on the tape for us to go through. Okay. And we'll spend a little time going through so you have a bit of an idea where the REOs are at. We'll talk a little bit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on where the potential distress stuff is subject to deals. We will go through how to calculate kind of the cash flow off of that. And we will spend more time on going through the non-performing stuff, the 597. I think that you can buy those at the bigger discounts for you. Okay. So if you like REOs, great. Jump on, take a look at the REOs and go from there. Make your offers directly to me. All right. And our process, like I said, we're going to go through this. We've already kind of gone through and organized it by default and strategy. I've calculated potential equity. I'll show you how we did that. And I'll show you kind of the potential ROIs for the notes. We'll get to that there. And then I've also gone through and calculated what your potential sub-to / profit margin is going to be for your subject-to deals or the wraps that are at 90 days. By coming up with a philosophy like, okay, if you can get if you're going to take this over as is, you need to know how far behind they are, right? Their default amount. And the good thing is they do have a Zillow value for about 95% of them. They've got a Zillow fair market value. Okay, it's about as accurate as Zillow can be. We know that, okay? Don't be bugging me saying, well, what a value? You'll be able to double check value in your due diligence period. But anyway, if you take the value of where it is, fair market value, and you shoot to get 10% down payment at a minimum, okay? Sometimes more, sometimes less, but 10%, and you take that 10% down payment and minus the 3 or 4 or 5 months behind that they are, that's leave you with a net profit of down payment. And then you take the other 90% of the value of the property and you finance it at like 9% interest only, that's the easiest way for you to figure P&I or really interest only payment. So take your interest only payment and see what that number is and compare that to what's the existing P&I payment. That can give you a monthly cash flow. All right. And then I calculate some numbers in there to figure, okay, what's it for a year in that cash flow plus the net of the 10% down to figure out roughly if you own or finance it, what would be the cash flow on a sub two deal. Okay. It's not perfect. Every deal is going to need to be considered differently if there's equity or other things. But I'm just trying to give you some rough numbers, calculations. And I'm going to tell you right now, don't ask me, oh, what's the pricing point on all these things? It's going to vary. Okay. It's really going to vary across the board. I had a fund. Oh, we need to know a fair price. I said, look, man, it's all across the board. Okay. Since the defaults are all across the board on these from 90 to a couple of years, it's going to vary based on an asset by asset basis. And that's what you have to do. And that's why I'm trying to spend some time with you guys tonight to give you a bit of a feeling like, hey, you're not going to bid on all 4,200 of these. Okay. You're just not. All right. Depending on where it's located, how far default they are, how much is owed. I mean, these are all first liens. That's a great thing. All first liens. Most of them are 30-year fixed. Some are a few arms in there. Some of them modified in the past. The bars have worked with them before. But the thing to keep in mind is don't be afraid to dive in. I mean, you can make one offer on these. This can be cherry picked. Okay. I'm expecting to be making a lot of offers come Wednesday. And that's when offers are due. And you're like, oh my God, Scott, how am I going to be able to make my offers by Wednesday? It's not that difficult. Okay. And here's the thing, something to keep a bit of an eye on, going back to pricing. If with the notes, the ones that aren't the 90 days or less, or 90 days in default, the ones that are further in default where there's negative equity, where the value of the property is below the payoff value, I would look at, generally speaking, we're probably going to put offers in its, run a number calculation of 65% of fair market value when there's negative equity. Okay. We're going to calculate, okay, what's it like if they just start paying 12 months in the first year? Or I prefer 16 months where they bring in 4 months of back payments and figure out what the ROI is off of that. The 12 months, 60 month divided by our 65%. That would be a quick calculation on the note side of things. Okay. It does not show taxes due. So you're going to need to look at the taxes due in these properties and calculate that in there. But when you adjust this stuff, you look at the things, obviously stuff in Texas, you probably want to bid a little faster because it's a faster foreclosure process versus say like South Carolina, which is 12 months, or Florida, which can take you 12 months longer now. Illinois, avoid Cook County. So bear with me on that. If it's a faster foreclosure state like Texas and Georgia, you may want to up the price a little bit. If it's a longer foreclosure process, you may want to decrease it a little bit. Okay. We've got some time. I'll dive, if you got one or two that you want to look at individually, then we can look at those individually and go from there. Okay. If there's equity where the value of the property is way above what the legal balance is that we calculated, we'll probably figure around 80% of UPB, give or take. Once again, we'll still calculate 12 months of on-time payments or 16 months of payments in a 12-month period to figure a rough ROI. And then we'll also look at what's the difference. Okay. What's our offer minus the legal balance? What's our profit margin there? And then also what's our profit margin if we do take it back and it doesn't sell at the auction? Is there going to be, and there's equity? What's our potential profit margin there too for you? So we'll try to get that as well. The REO side, you're just going to have to see if the property's listed. I would go 70% of the AVM value on these things. What they give is a quick value. Obviously, during due diligence, if it's a mobile home out in the middle of Timbuktu, you probably want to reduce your value. Okay. So just by the condition, location, type of the asset, you're not going to get interior photos on most of these folks. That's just one thing you have to understand these types of tapes. Now, if it's listed, yes, great. Don't call me, hey, Scott, is there a lockbox on the REO side? I don't have any lockbox information. They're not going to allow you to go take a look at it, walk through it before you make an offer. Make a quick indicative offering by Wednesday. If your bid's accepted, then we'll probably give you access to those things and then can go from there. Okay. And we'll try to help you out with a little bit of that. Got a question here. Okay, do me a favor. Do not start typing in specific addresses. We are not even close to doing that. All right. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate. I know you're being a head start, but wait before we may even get to that. If we go beyond 90 minutes, I'm still breaking down the tape. We're not going to dive into individual assets. Okay. So keep that in mind. Save your properties you want us to take a look at till later on. All right. I'm just going to delete your comments off. Uh, let's stay on track. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So the subject to wraps, what we figured is, I already mentioned before, is that we're going to figure 10% down payment, 90% interest only interest rate. We're going to compare the original P&I payment to the wrap P&I payment. We're going to target low rates and equity, and then the biggest payment gaps between the monthlies. And then the things we can talk about later on if we've got some time is what you can do to start marketing to owners and buyers and stuff like that. If that's your jam, then guess what? If you've got access to the tape, that's your you can log off, go from there if you want to. If you want to learn more, then stick around. Like again, how to submit an offer. Bids are due by Wednesday at noon. That's why we're doing this on a Monday night. So you've got all day tomorrow to dive into the stuff, and then send me an email with your spreadsheet attached with just the bids you're making offers on. No, if you're a wholesaler, just go do something else. We're not wasting time with wholesalers. I'm expecting you to be a buyer only, direct buyer for yourself. We don't need proof of funds yet, so if you want to make offers on 10 to get one, that's the route I would go. Expect to make 10 offers or more to get one or two. Okay. And you can bid on anywhere from 1 to 100 assets. If you're going to bid on 100, do me a favor, put it in the main spreadsheet, leave everything there. If you're bidding on just a couple one-offs, you can just submit over the loan number, the address, and the bid. Okay. And whatever the winning bid amount, there is a 1% fee on the funding amount to me alone. So if your bid's 100,000, you 1% fee, 1 point, it'd be $1,000 fee to me. To go up there. All right. Now, if your offer is approved, they're allowing a 14 to 21 day due diligence period, depending on how many you're offering on and how long it takes to get all the loan docs sent out to you and stuff like that. Usually, what will happen at the end of the due diligence period, they'll send you a loan sale agreement individually, and you'll sign it, and then you'll be expected to fund it within 7 days once your due diligence period is done. The AOM, the assignment of mortgage and or deed of trust, if it's an REO, it'll probably be a quit claim deed, will be in the name on the loan sale agreement. Okay, they're not going to allow you to assign it to somebody else to assign it to somebody else. So whatever you end up signing that loan sale agreement, it's going to be need to be the name on it. Okay, and like I said, that 1% fee to me will need to be wired at closing. All right, and my seller will hold up if I don't receive my 1%. Okay. Now, as people ask me all the time, how do you accept bids if people are bidding on multiple assets at the same time? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to look at the bids. Our one-on-one coaching students will get priority. Number one, they've paid for it. Our WCN members, monthly memberships for 90, who are paying $97 a month, they get second priority. Now, if they make an offer and say the bid is 100, and somebody comes and makes an offer at 150, and I think 150 is a better, more logical to get it accepted, I'm going to talk to my students. I'm going to talk to the 150. They don't come in here, and if you make a ridiculous amount of like lowball offers, like 30 cents a dollar, I'm going to know, and I'm not going to accept your bid. I'm just going to kick it out. Okay. So I want to get stuff funded. I don't want to have the seller like that's not going to make sense. Okay. It's the 2026. This does not make 1,000 lowball offers at 30 cents on the dollar. Just doesn't work that way. All right. This is with a major fund, and we're going to try to get offers accepted. So, if you're within 3, 4, 5 grand, I'll reach out and you'll be the backup offer in case it's countered and gone from there. Okay. So let's dive into some stuff here. Once again, our upcoming workshop is February 27th, 28th, and March 1st. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday here in Austin, Texas. To go to weclosenotes.com, click on the class, or go to notebuyingfordummies.com, and you register there right there. So let's dive into the fun tonight, shall we? All right. So, okay. Let me do this. Thinking about it. Oh, that's not what I want. I don't want to be in my drive. We're going to do this. All right. So share. All right. So can you guys see my spreadsheet? I'm hiding. I'm hiding the city street so we don't get shut down. All right. So to give you a bit of an idea, let's go through the columns first and foremost of these so you have a bit of an idea what we're looking at here. All right. So obviously we have a loan number on here. We have the strategy. Anything that's highlighted in green is something that I have added to the spreadsheet. Okay. So what I did is I went back through and figured, okay, the 3 strategies, the non-performing are going to be the most distressed. The REOs, if they're labeled REOs on here, will be in there. And then also the sub-2s. Okay. They're going to be the ones that are the least amount, like the 2,600 that are at 90 days. Okay. So city, state, zip, original balance, the current balance, current UPB. I went ahead and calculated by how far behind they are, the balance that they're behind by. I then took that the balance that they're behind and added that to the current balance plus any escrow um, that there's recoverable. And there's a couple columns further in the spreadsheet with escrow, if they've paid in escrow taxes, insurance, stuff like that. So I added that to that. So you have a true kind of legal balance here. The fair market value is just pulled from further in the spreadsheet, but it's in one spot. I then, to figure equity, I took the fair market value minus the legal balance, estimated legal balance to give me a true value equity, and then I took to figure the equity percentage that 12 grand divided by their fair market value. So you can see some of these have positive equity, and some have negative equity. Okay, the amortization type is fixed. Lien position is first. I'm just going to delete some of these off. Some of they're all government loans. USA Today, or sorry, there's no interest only period. USDA, VAs, that kind of stuff. Remaining loan terms, loan age. You can see the interest rates on these. And the interest rates on these, you can see, range from anywhere from 1.5%, all right, 1.5 all the way up to 8.5. Okay, so that's why we did that wrap around at roughly 9%. So everybody should be covered a little bit on that arbitrage. Some is going to be better than others. Okay, P&I payment, that's pretty self-explanatory. PITI, okay, some of these that are green, yeah, because you see over here NPN, REO, NPN. What I did is like, okay, if it's an REO, they're not going to be a performing strategy. If it says REO, it's going to be a foreclosure. So I filtered this spreadsheet so that we have 12 months of P&I payments and then 16 months of P&I payments, what those numbers are on here. Now, I haven't put in the percentage of what we're offering on these, so I can't figure an estimated yield off of the performing or the non-performing side. Okay, so just forget about that. Okay. E-note flag, we don't need those. I'm going to get rid of those. Original FICO score, current FICO. Don't know that stuff. It's not on there, so we're getting rid of some columns on here that we really don't need. I don't really care about the FICO score of the borrower anyway, because we're buying the first. All right. So you have the original LTV, original CLTV, the current LTV based on stuff. What's this? This is the debt to income. There's no numbers on that, I believe. Yeah. So we're just gonna get rid of any blank columns. Oh, front end, that's what it was. Front end debt to income, back end debt to income is the next one. Occupancy type, these are almost all owner occupied, a couple second homes and a couple investment properties. Okay. Now, that was how the loan was underwritten. I do not know the current occupancy on these. Don't ask me. Okay. I don't know if it's occupied, if somebody's sitting in it or not. I'd be willing to bet that there's probably quite a few. Most of these are going to be occupied with somebody sitting in it. Okay. This one is number of units. We don't know. These, I think it's all single family homes. Okay. Loan purpose. Okay. If it was refi, cash out refi. DSCR. If this was a DSCR loan, then there's none in there. So we're going to get rid of those. Document type means of how the loan was underwritten, full docs, simple, that stuff. I don't really care about that. Loan mod flag. None of those are in there. QM flag. So we're just going to get rid of these three columns. We don't really need them. Appraisal. This would have been when it was purchased. Okay. Appraisal date. I don't think there's a date on there. Nope. No reason to keep it. I posted the link one more time in the chat roll for you guys. All right. So here's the current property value. I don't believe that's a BPO. I believe it's a Zillow. It's about what we figured. Okay. Now we show when the loan was originated. And some of these go back to all the way back to 2011, all the way up to basically 60 days ago or 90 days ago. Okay. Origination date, the first pay date, the paid through date, the next paid date. You can see some of these are pretty behind. Okay. What I did is then I figured in the number of months behind by basically taking how many months based off of that they're behind. Maturity dates of these. And then they got the 1 year ARM indexes, which I don't really care about for the most part. Most of these have mortgage insurance, which is great. So I'm just going to hide these. Don't really need them for the time being. All right. Then you have the loan status. Oh, sorry. You have the mortgage insurance coverage, the provider for the VA, FHA. Then you have the loan status, which is going to be important for a lot of you guys, where they're at the foreclosure, bankruptcy. There are some things in here I didn't recognize. So I'm just going to open this up. So like zero, if you can see my screen. Well, some of these are like, okay, active FHA, PSA. I think that's an active uh, payment plan, bankruptcy, BK relief granted. It means that they've given some relief to them. It says current loans, so it means it's in its current portfolio. EPD risk, it means it's getting pretty close to being a escrow risk. Foreclosure, that's kind of self-explanatory. General population means it's just sitting there, they haven't started the foreclosure or anything. Loss mitigation means that the borrowers and the lender have started to work out some sort of trying to keep them in the house. Prior 60 plus default means that they've fallen behind in the past before by 60 days or longer. Or they're at redefault risk is another one. REO stands real estate owned, means they foreclosed. Um, the next ones are SCRA, and SCRA rate reduction and sus for foreclosure corporate events. Okay. I don't know what the SCRA, I'll have to figure that out there for you guys, but the suspected for foreclosure corporate events means that they're starting, yeah, they're gonna start going to foreclosure because they're not paying their taxes or insurance and that kind of stuff. Okay, so fourth place insurance. Okay, so they're all DQ'd. Okay, and yeah, they're all true. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. BK status, no, no, yes. Leave on those status active or suspended. So you take a look at it. Pay string, especially on these that are further behind, they're all going to be way behind. DQ1, they're not going to have, yeah. So basically, if these are newer stuff, they would have that stuff there. But since these are all beyond 90 days, we complete this off. Prepayment penalty false note. What does this say? This is, what's this note? Oh, any notes? There's no notes on it. Escrow flag. We're going to get rid of some of this stuff here. These are blank. There's no prepayment penalty on these. Okay. Now we have different interest advances. We have escrow advances. You can see some of these are pretty good chunks. Well, like this interest advance, this guy's hadn't paid in like 60, 90 months, right? And you see this date, current date 12/31 to 2025. Recovered corporate advances. Corporate advances and anything is recoverable. So what that means is if the lender's paid something that they can get back, like forced place insurance or property taxes, they can do that. If there's other things that have been advanced, like weed, city weed liens to pay it off, or utility costs, stuff like that, to avoid a foreclosure or the city dumping on something like that, they may not be able. And also, you probably have some HOA fees thrown in there as well. So that's fitting here. Now, on the back end of this, you're not seeing anything on here because these are all the most worst defaulted aspect of things, right? Now, let me go back over here, and then we're going to resort this. Custom sort. Custom sort, and we're going to filter this not by pay through date. We're going to be, yeah, newest to oldest. All right, so now we've reclassified. So the first chunk of them are all within the 90 days default. So if we go over here to where we go to our wrap information, now you'll see kind of where this stuff is kind of played out. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So like on this first one, all right, it's worth roughly, yeah, it's worth right about 800,000. Okay, seven something. No, sorry, 600,000 just about. So 10% for that five, what is it, 58 plus 588 is the value. So basically, if they put 10% down, that's worth a $58,000 down payment because that's 10% of the market value. You're financing 90% left of that. If you finance it at a 9% interest only and divide 12 months, their monthly P&I or principal or interest only payment is, sorry, not P&I, is 39.62. All right. Um, their existing P&I payment is basically, so the net cash flow is less than that. So you'd be making 1835 a month in monthly cash flow because you take basically that 39 minus their P&I payment to get that number. The net down, if you take the 58,700 and subtract the 3 months they're behind, it leaves you with 52,320 as a down payment. All right. And then their 12 months cash flow, if you take the 52 plus the 1835 a month in monthly cash flow, it gives you a 1 year cash flow of basically 74,347. So that's how we kind of calculate that for these in the green that are going to be basically all the way over here, going to be the sub twos. Okay. That's the ones that are going to be the sub twos. Now, do you have any questions about this? Okay. Because this, I wanted to get through this because that's the biggest chunk of it before we get to the non-performing and the REO side of things. Okay. And while I think about this, let me do this here. I did not include a offer. I meant to do that. So offering column. That's what I was forgetting about. I'll go update that spreadsheet later on that you download. But when you go to make your offer, submit your offer in the offering tab and then your name, label your spreadsheet, your name, offers. Okay. Not just 4,200 NPN because I'll be looking at a bunch of spreadsheets. Okay. But anyway, so there you go. That's a bit of an idea. Now on the sub twos, guess what? You're not going to be making an offer because you're not going to be targeting the bank to buy the notes. Those are going to be these that are sub twos. Those ones you're going to be marketed directly to the borrower trying to take over the payments. Okay, capiche? Any questions about that before I dive into it? And I'd love it if you guys actually ask the Q&A in the. Yes, I did exactly. Thanks, Judy. If you guys could put it your questions in the chat roll, chat roll should be enabled. So yes, Judy, I went back and resorted this by newest. If you look at these stuff here, let me bring it up here. It may not show it for you. So I sorted the whole thing, custom sort by paid through date, newest to oldest, to get your sub two deals. Or you just go, that's how it's sorted. They're all going to be about 90 days in the sub twos. They're nothing going to be older than 90 days on there. Okay. I take that back. I'm sorry. This is 3 to 6 months. My apology. Anywhere from 90 days in default to 6 months in default. But beyond that, it's really going to be more of a go to foreclosure or work out on the note deal. Okay. All right. All right. So that's the sub twos. If we click on, let's just go take next to the REO side. REO side here. You can see these 197. They're all over the place. I'll probably go through and map them. You could, that's one thing you could do and map them in Batch Geo if you want to. You know what's owed on these things. You know the value on these things. Could you make an offering? I'd make your offer at 65, 70% of their fair market value and go from there. That's really simple. If you see an asset on here that you like the address, online values look good, online condition looks good, I'd make an offer at 65, 70 cents on the dollar off of their value. If they accept it, then you pull your own numbers. And your value comes back in less, then you can fade your bid or cancel. Okay. I would also take a look at taxes out and deduct your taxes from what's the value of the property. And then make, or take your offer and then minus taxes. So if the house is worth 100, make an offer at 70,000. If it's got $5,000 back taxes off, reduce your taxes and make an offer at 65. Okay. If for some reason you're making your offer way below that and the property's trashed out or it's a piece of shit or went to tax sale or something weird thing like that maybe you want to try to recover, whatever, make a note why you're making a lowball offer and we'll submit it in. But if you're just making lowball offers, make lowball offers, yeah, homie don't play that. Okay. So now that we've gone through, are there any questions about the REOs or the sub twos before we dive into the non-performing stuff? Am I going to make some offers? Somebody asked. Yes, I will be making some offers. I probably won't make too many on the REO side of things. I usually like to stay to Texas. I used to buy a lot of stuff in Florida. Florida's just not really where it's at. Well, I'll take a look at some of the Florida stuff. Like if I look at the stuff in Texas here. Um, yeah, I'll look at the one in San Antonio, Greenville, um, Texas City. I actually drive by the one in Itasca every once in a while. I probably won't buy anything in El Paso, but I'll look at Waco. Yeah, Waco's not too far from me, about an hour and a half. San Antonio for sure. I'll look at that one. I gotta get rid of. So I'll look at a few and make some offers on the REO side of things. Okay. Let's look at one other state just for the fun of it. Indiana. There's only okay, yeah. There's only a couple REOs in Indiana, and one's in Knox, Indiana. No, Jamestown. No, I won't buy anything in there. Let's look at Florida real fast. God's waiting room. So you have to go through the foreclosure process. Let's see. There's a lot of REOs. Oh, there's a few. Okay. Jacksonville, Ocala, Lakeland, Panama City. Yeah, I might make a few offers of some of these REOs just for the heck of it. Okay, since I don't have to go through the foreclosure time frame. Depending on what kind of condition they're in, obviously. Okay. But let's look at more so. Let's go back in, check them all. Now let's dive into the non-performing side of the ball game. Okay. So let's do that. Non-performer. Okay. All right. So we're at the non-performing side of the list now. Go all the way up here. Right. And let's go over just so I know which kind of, I think they're in the most recent, like 6 months or longer. So if we go over here, yeah. So these are at 7 months behind or further. 7 months all the way down to like 90 months, right? Yeah, 90 months. Okay. Why the lender hasn't foreclosed on that one, I don't know. Okay, question here. A lot of negative equity in the Texas. Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind negative equity in Texas because we've seen the value drops in Texas. That's fine. I'll make it my offer where they're upside down. I'll make it at 65, 70% of value then. Makes it pretty easy for me on that. Okay. Um, and then if I'd sell at the auction, great. If not, I'd take it back. And it's fast foreclosure here in Texas. So it gives me some opportunity there. But so all right. So we're now sitting at, these are at 7 months in default or greater. Okay. And great. Guys, can do me a favor. If you're going to ask questions, do it in the chat room, not the Q&A part. The chat room is easier for me to read. Okay. All right. So these are basically all over the place. You've got some with equity, some with negative equity, some that say divide by zero because it didn't give us the value on this spreadsheet. So I'm not going to spend time diving into all the ones that didn't have the values, you didn't have time for that. You'll have to do that as well for yourself, okay? Unless it's an asset that I like. So what we will do, so the important thing is now that we have just the non-performers selected on these, is to determine, do they have equity or is there negative equity? Okay, so since I've already got it in here and I didn't want to go through 4,200 cells for you at a time here, we can now go in here and then we can sort it a little bit more. So let's do custom sort. And let's not do pay through date. We're going to do as equity percentage. And we're going to do largest to smallest as far as equity. All right, so these, there's a chunk on there divided by zero. What we do, okay? Let's see what some of these are at, just for the heck of it. So it's divided by zero. Okay. Shepherd, Texas, Shepherd, Montana. That's kind of interesting. Newport News, Escondido. All right, San Marcos. Some pretty good sized city. That's South Carolina. Carrollton, Texas is up by Dallas. Tyler, Texas, San Antonio. Okay, we could, some of these have current balances are pretty small. Oh, actually, we know the values on this. Okay. So on these, we're divided by zero. We can look back at those later on. Okay. But now that we've got them ranked by equity based off the fair market value side, we can do some things here. Okay. So where they've got equity, let's do this one other thing here. We're going to put, where's our P&I payments? Right over there. Okay. So we're going to insert a column in here. And we're going to say pricing model. Okay. So if there's a ton of equity, we're going to get rid of the divided by zeros because we don't want those missed. Okay, so there's a ton of equity. That means there's value above the legal balance. Okay, so we're probably going to need to make an offer at roughly about 80% of the legal balance. And you can see this one's got a ton of equity. Fair market value is 207. They only owe about 28. Okay, if that one's in North Carolina, I'd probably get rid of it because it's such a low balance. Okay. You start getting below $50,000 in legal balance, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to keep those around. I mean, in some cases it does, others it doesn't. It just depends on the asset. But for this, the pricing model, what we're going to do, since there's equity, we're going to say 80% legal balance. Okay. And that way it keeps it easy for us because we've got it sorted, remember, by equity percentage. Okay. Now that's not, these are all first liens, not seconds. Okay. We also don't know any type of lead liens or other things that may be attached to it. Like I said, I didn't take time to pull taxes on 4,200 assets. You'll need to do those individually for you. Okay. But since it's got equity, what we're going to do is copy that 80%, and we're just going to run it down here to make it simple for us. And we're going to go all the way down until they got about 20 to 10% in equity. So 20%, 10%. Let's go down to 10. It's probably what they want. And the reason I'm doing this to down to 10% equity, we know roughly, we know equity, you pull value can be kind of 10%, give or take a little bit, right? Okay. So when you see that these have got equity, 92 grand, 30 grand, 42 grand, 78 grand, they're all probably at that. They're probably all pretty close. Obviously, we know markets have changed. So if value comes back lesser, you adjust your bid price point. Okay. So we're just going to save those as 80% of the legal balance when we run. The rest of these, when we start getting below it, we'll just take these down and get to 10% or less, under 10%. We're going to drop that when they've got equity. We're going to calculate those as no equity. Okay. And so these with negative equity, we're going to say stair step. Or say they have no equity, we're going to say 65% of legal. Okay. May have to adjust it up, down a little bit. So let's copy that all the rest of the way down here. Now we get into the negative ones. Yes, we don't want to go off of, they owe more than the property's worth, so we're going to go off the fair market value of this. The first round, the 80% of the legal, they've got some equity. Okay, so we're just going to copy these all the way down. And the reason I put a separate column is this pricing model, so if you end up forgetting it, like where did my pricing model come in? It's easy to figure that out. Like, oh, I did 80%, or I did 65% legal, give or take a little bit. Okay. All right. So now that we've got that in there, I'm going to hit save. Let's add another column here. And we're going to make our, note purchase price. Okay. So 80% of legal, pretty equals legal balance times 0.8. Well, let me change this to a dollar amount. Here we go. So 80 cents on the dollar of 28 grand is 22,000. I'm going to double check it, and that's okay. That's about right. Okay. So now we're going to copy that now all the way down. All the way down where it says 80% of LB. Okay. LB. All right. Now this next one. So like here, this one's worth 536, 80 cents on the dollar of 536 is 429. That's about right. All right. So this here, where we get to 10% or negative, then we're going to go, okay, we're going to do 65% of the fair market value. Okay, because they figure they owe more than the property's worth. So the lesser of the number is fair market value. We as investors, we're going to bid on the percentage of the value because they owe more. We're not going to try to bid 80 cents a dollar when they owe more than the property's worth because that doesn't make any sense. Okay. That's one of the big mistakes we see realtors making in the note space. They look at the values and they overpay for a note. Well, there's a ton of equity. You got to pay 80% of the value, 80% of the legal balance is better. And that equity you're not tapping into initially. All right. So that's equal to, and we're going to go over here to the fair market value and just do times 0.65. Okay. And like I said, guys, it's just a guide. You're just trying to get some numbers and calculations and figure things out. If it's in a fast foreclosure state like Texas, I might need to be at 70, 75, depending on the difference. You know what I mean? It's a longer foreclosure. Like if it was New York, I sure as hell wouldn't be bidding 65 cents a dollar. If it was in a property in New York or New Jersey, I'd be bidding probably at 50 cents to the dollar or less for that. Okay. So anyway, so now that we have that, we're going to copy that down. Control C. We're going to run that all the way down for the rest of these that have minimal equity and negative equity. Okay. Is this making sense so far? Everybody follow me so far? I'll take that. Your silence is a yes. Somewhere Depeche Mode is playing Enjoy the Silence. All right. Yeah. Okay. So now these down here, where they've got 90 months of non-payment, you're not going to get this borrower back on track. That's going to be more of a foreclosure. But for the sake of it, on these numbers on here, we're doing that. Okay. So now we have our note purchase price rough. Now what we can do is figure in, okay, if we get the bar back on track, what does that look like? Now that we have what our rough offer might be, what they're looking for, kind of price guiding lines. So remember, over here, we already have 12-month and 16-month P&I. What's it if they just start paying on time again? All right, in 60 months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a column in here. And I just say 12 mod and 16 mod is how I label these two columns. All right. 12 months means they just start paying on time, the bare minimum. 16 months is they bring a chunk of money to the table in the front end. 4 months minimum, and then we work to get them back on keep along here. All right. So it's going to be very simple. I'm just going to hit is equal to P&I times 12 divided by what our number was, your note purchase price. Okay. And enter. We're good to go on that. That one's a 34% cash and cash return because it's a low balance. Okay. Low balance. The P&I is $644 a month. If I can get that and they pay on that for the next couple of years, yeah, it's a really good yield. You want to have it for in 3 years so you get your investment back. 16-month here. Let's do this here. Same thing. It's probably going to be even better. 49 cents of the dollar. 46 if I can bring back. Now, this borrower is, how many months behind are they? 14 months, so a year and a half. So 14 months might be a bit of a stretch on that 16-month because they're not far that far. Well, by the time we get around to it, closing on it, they're going to be 16 months behind. So the way I like to look at it is this is if you've got more than if they're paying 60 months your first year ROI and this is 46, the remaining years on it are 34% because you got that extra on the front end side. Now this is not including if they refinance out, which some may not. If you get paid off, we're not calculating the difference on what you're making as far as the difference between foreclosure. We'll cover that in a minute here. Okay. So, but now that I have these in here, I'm going to copy these formulas and then I'm going to copy them all the way down. So that then gives me an estimated ROI. Okay. Rough ROI. If they start paying 12 months and I pay this thing at 80 cents a dollar, what's my ROI going to be, rough, give or take? Okay. Now you're not probably gonna like most of these are at a lot of 4%, 5%, 1.5% is not gonna be a very good yield, right? If it's in there still. But for some of these, they might make pretty good sense to buy them at the 80 or 65 cents of the dollar aspect of things. And what can they bring in divided by what we're paying for it? It's a really simple aspect of things. So yeah, we're going all the way down here. All right, so let's go here and hit Control V, and we copied it over. Okay, so no surprise that the further we get down there, yeah, the more default they are, the higher yield they are. So you've now you got some opportunity. A lot of these, as you can see here, are at that. Let me bold these. Some of them have pretty good yields, but a lot of these are going to be that 9, 10%, which really doesn't make sense on some of this stuff that's low interest rate. Okay, I'm not paying 80 cents on the dollar for 3.5% interest rate. That means I'm going to make about a 4% yield for the most part. 5% right here, like this one says, or 8. Now, if they do bring 16 months of table skin in the game, guess what? I get 11%. Right? So, on some of these, it's going to make sense to do that. Others, it just doesn't make sense to buy these. When they're low interest rates, it's hard to make money on those. Okay. Now, let's go down here. Now, the ones where you're paying at 65 cents of the dollar, yeah. Let's go back here. You're probably going to see Yeah, so 80% of the dollar, it's not going to make much of low interest rates. But when you start buying at 65 cents, where there's a little bit of negative equity, there we go. Now you probably see the yields higher. Yeah, a little bit higher. 10, 11, 10, 11, 13%, 14% on some of these. Okay. 12%. You're going to start seeing a little bit of creepage. 12, 11, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I mean, you realize it's a 4% interest rate. Okay. Now, if they owe more and they owe more in 16 months, can you bring some stuff in? Now, what we haven't tackled yet is talking about what's it like going to be if we foreclose on these? What's the process on it, right? So let's go back over here and insert some columns here for you. All right. So we have, what do we have here? We have, this is the 65% of legal. Okay. So if you, this is where um, they owe more than the property's worth. So you're not going to go for the full legal. All right. So your foreclosure profit on these is going to be basically this 35% of the value, right? So it's going to be is equal to, this is going to be equal to your fair market value minus your note purchase price. Hit enter. Okay, that's for those. And this is 65%. So you have foreclosure profit if you sell it at the auction. That's right. Let's go over here and let's copy, since we've got to filter down for the 65%, we can copy that formula the rest of the way down and go back and change it for the 80 percenters. So we're gonna copy that down. Actually, let's do one other thing. Okay, let's add another column. Foreclosure ROI. Actually, let's do this. Let's add another number in here. This formula is just take 10% out. Let's include like foreclosure costs. Just say 10 grand. Just be on the higher end, right? Minus 10,000. That's better. And now we can figure this more accurate is equal to that number, our net profit, divided by what our purchase price is. That's if we foreclose. Okay, that's about right. Okay, so let me copy these. See, we'll copy these all the way down for this chunk. Now, the other 80%, what you're gonna do is take the legal balance minus your purchase price, which should be about 20% across the board. 20-25% yield roughly. All right, so there you go. And obviously values all across the board depend on what you're paying for this stuff. Okay. Foreclosure profit. Now let's go over and switch these out for let's change the numbers up for the 80 percenters. All right. Okay, so foreclosure profit on this is going to be your legal balance minus your purchase price. Is that? And your foreclosure ROI is going to be your, oh, we didn't do that in there. So this is going to be basically, we forgot to take the 10 grand out, right? Add the minus the 10 grand. Yeah, and that's about right. If this is one takes you 10 grand to foreclose, you only pay 22 for it, and you're only going to get 26 at a foreclosure auction on just the, you know, what you're owed. That's not a very good deal. Yes, it's a negative profit margin. Now, could you work a cash for keys, deed in lieu, try to work that with a bar? Yeah, of course you can. But just bear in mind, they've got a ton of equity. You're probably going to get it outbid at auction because they've got a ton of equity above. Okay. So let's go down and copy this down for the 80 percenters. Here we go. Now we have the answers to the secret to the universe, right? Now let's go here and add these both. Now you can kind of start looking at numbers. Now you can start looking, now you've got the equity deals and the negative equity deals all calculated correctly. Now you can start matching apples to apples, right? If you were to try to calculate it a little bit differently with just one thing, it'd be apples to oranges. Okay. So you look at equity deals or you look at negative equity deals. Okay. The equity deals are going to be the 80 percenters. The negative equity is going to be the 65 percenters. Okay. And of course, the further in default they are, the legal balance goes up and down there. So now to look at it is to say, okay, where am I at? What kind of ROI am I going to see? Okay. So now you have that aspect of like, okay, so starting at the bottom or starting at all of these now, you can see, okay, if I on this one, if I get the bar back on track and they start paying on time, it's a 34% cash and cash return to me. That's pretty good. If they make some extra, it's pretty good. But if they don't, and it takes me 10 grand to foreclose, which I'm being high, I probably should go back and change that to 5 grand, but I want to say some holding costs and stuff like that. I'm not putting any money costs. Okay. This is all based on the fact that you're using your own money on this. Now, if you're going to use other people's money, then you're going to want to make damn sure you're getting probably cheaper than what your interest rate is, and that your money cost can be way cheaper on the profit margin side. Now, especially in the foreclosures, if we go back over here, let's look at these real fast. Let's go to the months behind. Let's change these. Let's resort these, custom sort. And not the equity percent. We're going to change these to months behind. And we're going to go largest to smallest. Okay, so that's where you're going to see probably some pretty good stuff on this. So that's where, if it's, like, let me give you an example here. So 90 months, let's go all the way down. Let's go down to 12 months. No, actually, we'll do 16 months and beyond. So 16 and beyond is line item 2982. Okay. So that's where you start looking at this stuff. Okay. So this one might not be a bad one. If they reinstate on this one here, if they reinstate to start making monthly payments at the 12% cash and cash return, if they bring 4 months to the table and get caught up at the end of year one, that means it's 18% cash and cash return. Okay. But if they won't play ball and I have to foreclose, I'm going to make about 65 grand, which is about a 47% return on my money. It means I paid probably $140,000 for this note. Now, that's the way we want to look at it. Okay. Now, on some of these, without the more months they're behind, the less likely they're going to behave. Right. 12 months, it's kind of on that cusp. Could we keep them in? Could we not? All right. Like these ones up here, in 90 months, these top couple ones where they're the worst. Yeah, you're not going to get this bar back. I wouldn't even worry about this. Okay. So let's look at these. Let me do something here. 90. Yes, like these that are 3 years behind or 2 years behind. Let's just do 2 years behind. 24, 24. Okay, 24. So 2 years behind, you're probably not going to get these bars back on track. Okay. 2 years behind, and then it's all about your yield on a foreclosure basis. So like 19, 18% here to foreclose, that's not really exciting to me. I want to be at 20, 25%. Okay. So now you can start looking at this stuff like, okay, they're way behind. They're probably not going to reperform. I'm going to foreclose, and what am I going to roughly? Now, this is not also not including any type of repair costs. Okay, don't know the you'll have to figure that in and deduct that from roughly your foreclosure profit. But some of these where you start seeing 50 grand or more in foreclosure costs, if it makes sense for you, great. Now we're looking over here at where they're at. So you got some like El Paso, Texas. Okay, that's like one of the most, you know, let's go down. Baton. I wouldn't probably buy in Baton Rouge. Same thing. You get rid of states you don't want to buy in. Spring Valley, great. I'm not going to buy in California, but I would look in like Dayton, Ohio. I don't have a problem with that. Um, I might look at the Connecticut and Berlin. I don't know how big Berlin is. I'm not going to deal with Washington D.C. Um, Key West, Florida. That might be worth looking at because it's Key West, baby. Conroe, Texas, for sure. There's a Port St. Lucie, might not be too bad. Red Oak, Texas, I would look at that. Since these are more than 6 months behind, if they're vacant, you could get, if they're vacant, then you could do a 6 month foreclosure in New Jersey. So it might make sense for the Little Egg Harbor Township in New Jersey. Panama City, Florida, maybe. Midlothian, Texas, I'd look at that. Kokomo, Indiana, yep. San Diego, California, maybe, maybe not. Pflugerville, Texas, yes. All day long on this one. And so the Pflugerville, Texas one, they owe 213. Their payoff is 247 because they haven't paid in 12 months. They do have some equity. That's the thing. Paying 80% of the dollar equity of the balance, it's not so bad. So I'd pay 198 for that asset that's worth 250. Oh no, it's worth 505. Wow. That's got a lot. Oh yeah, that's about right. So they got a lot of equity there. That's fine. We'll foreclose and either make some money on it at the auction. It doesn't really make sense. See, 6% and 9% cash return, if they start paying, just doesn't make any sense to me. But if we sell it, we buy it and sell it to foreclosure auction, you make 40 grand on that deal in probably 90 days. And that's a 20% cash return. So that's not a bad deal for me. I know it. I've actually got photos of it, plan on driving by it this week. So I'll probably drive it by it tomorrow. Think about it. But that's the thing you look at. Now that you have numbers and calculations, rough estimates, this is not meant to be your ROI calculator for the most part. It's giving you some general stuff. Okay. Well, Scott, I want to make 30% on my reperforming notes. Well, then this is not the tape to go in and drop your bid down by 50% so you get a 30% cash return. Now, if you're sitting at a 13%, you'd like this one here, 13, 17, and 4%. Let's look at this one. Where's this located? This one is located in Pinconning, Michigan. I don't know where Pinconning, Michigan is, but that's okay. They owe 177. They're behind by quite a bit. They're upside down. Okay. So 74 for it. Yeah. If they start paying on time, great. Could be a pretty decent cash return. Because remember, they pay on time for 12 months. We can get back on track. We could turn around and sell this note back to Wall Street at 80, 90 cents a dollar. So if I paid 65 for it, I could turn around and sell it back at 80, 90, 85 cents a dollar, make some money of 12 months of cash flow along the way. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns about this stuff, ladies and gentlemen? I know I covered a lot there for you so far. Now, if you want to review a specific deal on here, now would be a time to talk about it. I mean, you're like, I just drank from a fire hydrant. Okay. Once again, I'll be uploading this new updated spreadsheet back into it here when we wrap up tonight in probably the next few minutes here for you. But this is the way that we evaluate deals. And of course, it's all based on what the numbers end up doing. All right. The value comes back on that one. It's 505. That's fine. But the legal bet, like I'll give you a great example. Let me just do this one here. Where did I see it? This one here, highlighting this one. They owe roughly legal balance is 247. So if I offer at 80% of the 247, that's the 198. If it sells at the auction, that's a $59,000 profit. Now it's not going to take me 10 grand to foreclose. It'd be more like 2 grand. Okay, well, that's a pretty good yield. Now, if it doesn't sell at the auction, guess what? We now own an REO worth 500 or 450 because the property's in good shape. Pflugerville. I will be bidding on that. Don't even bother bidding on it, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to bid on that one. I take precedence on that one. But you get what I'm saying. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns before we let you guys go tonight. I know we covered a lot of information there for you. Let's see who's still on here with me. Kathy, was your one that you were talked about? I did leave your comment because I wasn't getting distracted by it. Was one of yours a non-performer, or was it an REO, or was it a sub two deal? Now we get tapes like this all the time in our monthly membership at $97 a month, ladies and gentlemen. Our one-on-one coaching students get crack at stuff like this, all the time. We provide lists to our coaching students so they're direct to the sources. We'll upload lists to our monthly membership. Like I said, $97 a month where they can take a look at these things and have, first crack at them after our one-on-one coaching students for the most part. So, hey, Linda, good to see you. Happy New Year. Rodney, did you get your list there? Let's see questions here. I will post the recording. I'll get the recording up. I'll try to get it tonight. So it's first thing available tomorrow for you. Okay. $97 a month is our monthly membership. Let's see here. I'll put the link here. If you go to noteumbrella.com, it gives you where to register and all the different benefits that go with it. Okay. Thank you, Al. Good question. All right, everybody. Well, then we were going to wrap it up. I've gone through as much as I can to here with you guys for the most part. Obviously, double check your taxes. Oh, let's look at another one. Actually, let's look at one more here. Let's look at when you look at cities. Okay, like Indianapolis, North Las Vegas. Okay. Indianapolis, they have negative equity, and Las Vegas has negative equity. So you're paying 65 cents of the legal, okay, or of the 65% of the fair market value, not legal. Sorry. Yeah, change it. 65% of fair market value, not the legal side of that, ladies and gentlemen. My apology. Let's do this. It's supposed to be 65% of the fair market value. I apologize. So let's just do Control F, 65% legal, find all, replace all, replace all. Ah, there we go. Should be all fixed. All right, there we go. Easy peasy. Fix that for you guys. My apology. Legal. I get you. Sometimes you say things you mean the other thing. And that's been fixed. And we'll update, like I said, we'll update this for you guys. So you guys that tuned in live here, I'll shoot you out the link in email with the link to it tomorrow. If you're watching the replay on this, I'm sorry, guys. Should have tuned in live. I will not be sending the spreadsheet out to you guys if you tuned in. It did not tune in because we've got a Wednesday bid date. You can reach out to me directly, talk to me. Maybe I'll send it to you that way. Maybe not. Just depends. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to look at those two. You can tell I'm tired. Where was I? Indianapolis and North Las Vegas. Okay, here we go. 266 and 348. If we get them back on track. Yeah, it's 9 to 11%. Yeah, 9 to 12, and then 11 to 15. And it's basically about a 50% profit margin to foreclose on these things, which is pretty good. Yeah. or close based off of it. Not so bad. All right. That's all I've got for you guys tonight. I'm exhausted and tired, and we'll be doing more of these going forward on Monday night. So go out, take some action. Thank you so much for coming on here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get the replay out to you as soon as it processes, probably first thing in the morning. And we'll see you guys all at the next spreadsheet. Like I said, get your offers into me by Wednesday at noon Central Time, and we'll get them out there for you as well. So let me know. You want to make even an offer on one, feel free to book a phone call with me, talkwithscottcarson.com. I'm glad to jump on it and walk you through these different assets and let you pick my brain and go from there. Okay, if you're just doing sub twos, wrap around, stuff like that, you don't even bother calling me. Get rock and rolling and go from there. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you all next week.